Good afternoon to you. Mark Sott with HurricaneTrack.com here. Let's take a look at Hurricane Iota. Kind of hard to believe that we're even talking about a letter of the Greek alphabet so deep into that alphabet. But here we are, 2020. Just unbelievable, the amount of named storms, the hurricanes, the major hurricanes. It is definitely, by all metrics, a very, very busy season and a damaging season for a lot of people. A lot of impacts over a lot of areas, and it is not over yet, unfortunately. So let's take a look at what we've got here with Iota. Down in the Western Caribbean, the visible satellite animation courtesy of Tropical Tidbits. Couple of things to note. It had a bit of a dry slot that developed right through here just after sunrise, and some of that dry air has tried to work its way in and maybe disrupt the core. That's going to abate. The core is going to reconsolidate, and this is going to go on to become a Category 4, I do believe. My prediction that this hits 130 miles per hour still stands, and that's the official forecast, if I'm not mistaken, before it makes landfall over near the Honduras-Nicaragua border. So the reason that that dry air got in there, at least my theory, part of the reason, you have mountains down here along the northwest coast of Colombia, and I think that some of that air, that inflow, the downsloping wind, when air sinks, it dries out, and it was able to kind of ingest this downsloping wind in here, and that warms, it dries, and it helps to disrupt the convective process. That's at least my theory as to maybe why it struggled just a little bit today, but nonetheless, it's going to continue to organize, and you can see a couple of very high thunderstorm cloud tops right there. There's the other one, almost looks like one of those yin-yang patterns. And the central dense overcast in here, the core of it, very well intact, very huge, well-developed feeder bands. The outflow in the upper levels where the wind is moving out very evenly in almost every quadrant means that this will go on to develop and become a very rare second Category 3 hurricane for the month of November. We've never had that happen before. And this is going to happen just 2 weeks after the last one, which was, of course, Hurricane Iota. So again, as we just kind of broaden this out some, this is the track map, obviously, but I suspect that these mountains down here help to, like I said, generate some of that inflow of dry, upsloped or downsloping air that came off those mountains of northwest Colombia. Cartagena is there on the coast. Has nothing to do with mountains, but just saying, this is Colombia down here, and Colombia's got some tall mountains, and that's just my theory, and I'm sticking with it. Probably some dry air in the vicinity of the atmosphere as well, but my money is on downsloping coming off some of these big-time mountains. So the track takes it in towards Nicaragua and eventually affecting Honduras as well. Right along the coast here is where everything is the most flat. And I looked at it on Google Earth. There's not any Google Street View down there that I could find. And a lot of jungle, a lot of dirt roads, a few villages down here. Not a huge populated area, thank goodness. But there are people. They will be impacted. There's a tremendous amount of heavy rain that's going to come through this area. And just on the heels of Iota, I suspect that this will result in more loss of life, unfortunately. Hopefully word is getting out through whatever means they have down there. I mean, it is 2020, and they do have social media, they do have power and electricity. Well, that's the same thing, but they have internet. How widespread it is, I don't know. But, these are not people that live completely in the dark. They will get word to as many of these villages as they can, but it's still a very dangerous situation, to be sure. Checking the stats here, I like this dashboard from Tropical Tidbits. 982 was the pressure as of the last update here at, looks like 12 UTC, so the 8 a.m. advisory, which that can't be. Let me just go, let's pull up another chart here. I think that's more for the model guidance stuff instead of the current situation. 90 miles per hour is the wind speed, 978. As of the 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be getting an intermediate advisory in just a little bit. But this is the current model synoptic time as of 12 UTC on Levi's site. There's a current satellite picture. There's the track map, the position of the low. And then here's the modeling, and you can see, generally speaking, a very tightly clustered envelope suggesting a direct hit into Central America. None of the guidance indicating any kind of a weird turn towards the northeast, towards the Yucatan. None of that. Let's put a big X over that. Not going to happen, and I'll explain why in just a moment as we take a look at some of the, well, at least the GFS. It'll be pretty evident. Really neat the way the color coding is here from Levi's site. Very strong in this particular range of time. The intensity color bands here, you can see the farther down the scale we go, the more intense it is, and we get some of these colors in here indicating a strong hurricane. Then it starts to weaken in this time frame, and even more so after that, coming from yellow to green to sort of a teal color or whatever back to blue, indicating pressures start to rise. But you notice that this is the ensemble tracks here from the GFS. That's what GEFS stands for. A big fat 0%. All right, 0% of these have any of those, oh boy, we might have to watch up here. None of that. It's not there. And I'll show you why in just a moment here. So there's the 12Z GFS right there, 12 UTC. And today's date, Sunday, the 15th of November. Hey, we only have 2 weeks of hurricane season left. Or do we? I'll talk about that more tomorrow. But here is Iota in the modeling. And then here's this pretty stout ridge, mid-level ridge, deep layer ridge in some areas. It's strong enough. There's enough ridging. That's the bottom line. You can see these height lines here. I'm just kind of filling in some blanks. And this is going to prevent Iota from coming more to the north. There is some troughing up here. You can see the lowering of the heights here. And that's kind of like a magnet. I use that analogy from time to time. But this magnet is not dipping down like this, to where it really erodes the ridging back and allowing some kind of an escape route for Iota like Eta had. It's just not in place right now, which is good for Jamaica, the Caymans, Cuba, and vicinity, but not good for our friends down here in Central America, where they are going to have to deal with quite a hurricane, unfortunately. So if we look at this through time, this is the current setup. Then we go out 12 hours, 18, 24, and again, just not enough of a weakness. There's a little bit of a break right here in the ridging, but back to the south, there's just enough high pressure to keep this tucked away, as we call it, in the Caribbean Sea. So generally, a just north of due west heading, more than likely from the GFS anyway, right into the Honduran-Nicaraguan border. It comes inland sometime during the early morning hours of Tuesday, starts to die away, and all of that energy dissipating over the mountains. Yuck. I mean, it's just going to be a big, big rainmaker, and you can just see the huge circulation pattern overall. Lots of moisture down here, lots of rain. And then, curiously, another piece of energy tries to come off the Colombian coast. Those mountains create these little vortices. Well, that's vortex, plural. Vortices, is that a word? Might not be. They create these pockets of energy. That's a good way to put it. And sometimes, if conditions are right, you got enough moisture and low shear, so forth and so on, those can develop. So by day 3 here, it's very curious. You got the large unwinding circulation of Iota over here, but then you've got this little feature coming off the coast of Colombia. And if we move it on out into time to day 4, it closes off. It's small, but it does close off, and then by day 5, 120 hours out, it too heads in the general vicinity of Nicaragua. And you notice what's happening. More big-time ridging all across the western Atlantic basin, into the southeast, across Florida, across the Gulf of Mexico. So the wind flow is just generally going to be from east to west through here and not allow anything to start curving up towards Florida or curving up towards Cuba or the Bahamas or Jamaica. It's just not in the cards right now. But could this be yet another system? This is 5 days out. The GFS starts to pick up on this fairly soon. There's 72 hours. I don't know. It starts in there at about hour 48. Just a little bit of energy that tries to come off that northwest coast of South America. It's not mentioned in any of the tropical weather outlook products yet, but there it is. It winds up, and I'll just show you. It goes on in down into the southern part of Nicaragua and then crosses into the eastern Pacific. And this is way on out about 7, 8, 9 days. Another large-scale feature maybe near the Bahamas. Who knows? We're probably going to have 2 or 3 more named storms before December. And just checking just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, no additional outlooks for anything else out there. So tomorrow, Monday, Friday, I got my Fridays and Mondays mixed up if you saw Friday's update. Tomorrow is Monday, the 16th of November. It'll be pretty lengthy. We'll go over the latest on Iota, of course, and then a look ahead at the next couple of weeks, and then even on into December, as I'm seeing some signs from some of the ensemble guidance, especially from the Euro, that this upward motion favorable pattern is going to continue into December. Not so much that I'm worried about any threats to the lower 48 or even most land areas, but you never know with the Caribbean, all the islands scattered around down there. It's like there's just too many targets, so we can't say for sure that we won't have any other impacts. But I think that we have a chance to add 2 or 3 more named storms before the end of December and just absolutely obliterate the records. And we're going to go into those statistics a little bit more tomorrow. Kind of put this season into perspective, compared it to other past seasons, 2010, 2005, 1933, other very big seasons, where we stand and where it looks like we might be heading as we start to round out, technically, at least on the calendar side of things, the 2020 hurricane season. It'll be over, but it won't be over, probably. Unbelievable. All right, well, you guys stay safe out there. That is my number one request of you. Keep yourselves safe. It is a very different time that we're living in, where we have to watch pretty much everything we do to try to stay safe. It's just, but you know what? The weather, I keep saying this, kind of draws us together, and at least we've got that, a common interest, and we can be aware of it and know what's happening, and do that one goal of mine, and that is to keep you safe and informed, of course. Have a great rest of your Sunday, as always. Thanks for tuning in and giving me a part of your day. I am Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack.com. We'll gather around the old campfire and talk some more about it tomorrow.